Hey, sorry the lighting is a bit bad. I'm doing this in my car so I don't disturb anyone at the dorm. And I'm fulfilling my promise by doing the spoiler review of Avengers Infinity War. And guess let's start this off. The movie started off with Thanos already having killed most of everyone on the Asgardian ship. Heimdall and Thor are defeated, and he's trying to get the Space Stone from Loki, who isn't budging. And he tries to stall time for Hulk to show up, but Thanos quickly defeats Hulk, and Heimdall sends Hulk to Earth to warn them about Thanos. And in the process, Heimdall is killed. And eventually Loki relents and gives up the Space Stone. Thanos already had the Power Stone, and he explained that he defeated everyone on Xandar to get it. And once he has it, he kills Loki right in front of Thor, who vows vengeance, who swears that he's going to kill Thanos. And then Thanos blows up the Asgardian ship, and then the opening credits roll. Oh yeah, and we didn't see Korg or Valkyrie at all. So, not sure if they got... So, I guess they got cut out of the movie or something. Anyway, Hulk lands in the Sanctum Sanctorum as Doctor Strange and Wong are going to get lunch. And Doctor Strange goes to get Tony Stark, and then he and Banner fill him in on the Thanos threat. And then Iron Man is about to get in contact with Steve Rogers, but then they hear something outside and they see a flying donut, which is one of the spaceships that the Black Order came in. And we see half of them in New York. Ebony Maw and Cole Obsidian, they're trying to get the Time Stone, and so they fight, and while that's happening, Spidey senses tingle, and Spider-Man comes to the rescue. And all the meanwhile, Bruce Banner cannot go Hulk. And this happens throughout the movie. Eventually, Spidey, he tries to rescue Doctor Strange, the Wizard, as Stark put it, but ends up getting caught up in a tractor beam when Ebony Maw captures Strange, and they go off in their flying donut. Cole Obsidian is transported somewhere, and as he's trying to escape the portal, his hand gets cut off. Yeah, that happened. So, yeah, the flying donut is going up to space. Spider-Man can't breathe, so Iron Man sends in the Iron Spider suit so Peter Parker can breathe. And then he tells him to go home, but Spidey ends up sticking around a bit more on the ship. And I'm just gonna go. I'm going back and forth between like 3 to 4 storylines, so sorry if this ends up going a bit long. So we cut back to the Guardians, and they pick up Thor after receiving a distress call from the Asgardian ship. And they don't explain what happened on screen. They cut off the exposition part, which I'm fine with, but it would have been okay in this scenario, I guess. But ultimately, Thor has some funny interactions with them. He thinks that Rocket's the leader and ends up calling him Rabbit throughout the whole movie. Star-Lord feels a bit inferior and tries to stand a bit taller. Tries to suck in his gut a bit. From comments from Drax, and tries to lower his voice. That was funny. But ultimately, Thor decides he needs to go to Nidavellir, the land of the dwarves, for them to forge him a new weapon to kill Thanos. And he also tells the Guardians that he would likely go to nowhere for the Reality Stone. And Rocket decides to go with Thor because weapons. He's interested. And then Groot comes along too for some reason. Actually, Groot barely did anything in this movie. He mostly just played the game for a good 2/3 of the whole movie. It only became real useful in the last third, but we'll get to that later. So, on the way to Nidavellir, Rocket and Thor talk, and eventually Rocket ends up giving Thor a prosthetic eye that he got from someone and hid up somewhere very unclean. So now Thor has an eye back and doesn't need to wear the eye patch. So much for Pirate Thor. So the Guardians go to nowhere and they see Thanos torturing the Collector. And as they're attacking him, Thanos reveals that this was all an illusion by the Reality Stone. And so the Guardians try to attack him again, but he turns Drax into blocks and Mantis into like sheets of paper. It's a bit hard to explain because it all happened with the Reality Stone. And he captures Gamora, and Star-Lord has to make a choice to either kill her or not, because Gamora made him promise to kill her because she knows the location of the Soul Stone. And ultimately, when Star-Lord tries to pull the trigger, he ends up becoming bubbles, and Thanos and Gamora are transported away to Thanos' ship. And as they're doing that, everything else turns back to normal, but except the destruction which Thanos actually did. So on Thanos' ship, he tries to warm up back to Gamora, but can't, because she's not letting him. So he ultimately shows her that he has captured Nebula and tortures her until Gamora gives up the location of the Soul Stone, which they go to. And Nebula escapes and sends a message to the Guardians to meet her on Titan. So Gamora and Thanos go to this planet called Vornir, which is the place where the Soul Stone is, and they're met by the Guardian of it, which I did not expect to appear in this movie, the Red Skull. That's right, he got transported here at the end after Captain America, the first Avenger. So he's guarding this place, and he reveals that to get the Soul Stone, it's a soul for a soul. And if you want the Soul Stone, you need to sacrifice something that you love. And then Gamora's laughing that Thanos doesn't love anything, but then Thanos turns around and shockingly has tears in his eyes. It's like, oh man. And then he walks towards Gamora and then he kills her. And it's actually really sad, because you actually see him that he's showing that he did consider Gamora his daughter. That wasn't all talk. And that he did love her. And at the end of the day, he gets the Soul Stone. That whole sequence was actually one of the strongest parts of the movie, in my opinion. It showed that Thanos has more to him than we thought, than just wiping out half the universe. He does have a bit of a moral conscience, but ultimately we still know what he's doing is bad, but he considers it a necessary evil in a sense. It humanizes him a lot, but we're still rooting for our heroes to defeat him. So, So the Flying Donut with Doctor Strange and Iron Man and Spider-Man crashes on Titan. And they meet up with the Guardians, and that leads to one of the funniest exchanges ever. There's a Mexican standoff, kind of, with Star-Lord pointing his thing at Spider-Man and Iron Man pointing his thing at Drax. And then he goes like, okay, where's Gamora? Who's Gamora? Why is Gamora? And ultimately, they do see that Thanos is their common enemy and try to devise a plan. And while they're doing that, Doctor Strange is going through the Time Stone to see possibilities and outcomes and how many times that they'll win. And he ended up only winning one time in like a million other scenarios. At the same time that's going on, Captain America... Oh crap, I just realized I didn't mention what was going on Earth. I got so caught up in space. So back on Earth, Vision and Wanda are attacked by the other two members of the Black Order, Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. And Corvus actually stabs Vision, which I did not expect, and that actually makes Vision unable to face through things, and he's defeated pretty quickly. Wanda is okay against Proxima, but against both of them, she can't defeat them. And she's joined by the other underground Avengers, so Steve Rogers, Black Widow, and Falcon. And they got a call from Bruce Banner when he picked up the phone that Iron Man was about to call on. And they defeat them, and they go back up in their donuts. And then our Avengers meet up with Rhodey at the Avengers base and Banner. And then they decide to go to Wakanda to see if they can take out the Mind Stone. Because if they remove the Mind Stone, then something about Vision having more to him than just the stone. So they go to Wakanda, and they set up their defenses, and Shuri tries to take out the Mind Stone, which is taking a long time. And Wanda is there to make sure that the stone is destroyed when it gets taken out. And in their defenses, Banner is in the Hulkbuster armor since he can't Hulk out. And they set up the force field, and the Outrider ships end up crashing onto Wakanda. And the two sides meet halfway to discuss terms, to which Proxima and Cole Obsidian want the Mind Stone, and the Avengers are not budging. And Proxima makes it seem like Corvus is dead for some reason. We'll get to that later. And then ultimately they go back and get ready to battle. So Thanos goes onto Titan to take the Time Stone, and he tries to explain his motivations, which I already stated earlier. And then he's attacked by the pseudo Avengers and Guardians. And that leads to a very awesome fight sequence. That was amazing. I can't go into every detail of what happened, but trust me, it was awesome. Seeing Thanos with 4 Infinity Stones, using them to fight off Iron Man, Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, and Doctor Strange, and then Nebula joins in later on. And that was awesome. Eventually, it comes to a point where they're about to get the gauntlet off, but then Star-Lord comes in and is about to help out the rest of them in taking the gauntlet off. But then he has to ask, where's Gamora? And then Nebula and Thanos confirm basically that he killed her. And then Star-Lord just punches Thanos a few times, which ends up waking him up because Mantis had him sleeping a little bit, but he was resisting a lot. And ultimately Thanos defeats all of them and takes the Time Stone, because he was about to kill Iron Man. Actually, he ended up stabbing him, and I thought he was about to die. And then Doctor Strange gives up the Time Stone for his life. And now Thanos has 5 Infinity Stones. And then he goes, and before he goes to Wakanda, let's go to the Wakanda battle. That was also awesome. Let's see, Proxima ends up fighting Okoye and Black Widow. And they're kind of equal in fighting. But then these, giant machines start to mow down a bunch of the Wakandan soldiers. So Wanda goes off to help them and ends up helping Black Widow and Okoye take care of Proxima Midnight. And they end up killing her. Did I mention what happened to Ebony Maw? If I didn't mention it, I'm sorry. If I did mention it, I'm sorry too for repeating myself. No wait, I think I did say it. He got sucked out into space. So at this point in the movie, there were two dead. Yeah, it turns out Corvus was actually alive, and he snuck his way into Wakanda to get Vision, and then he took the fight outside, and then they realize that Vision's in trouble, so everyone tries to go out and try to help Vision. So the Hulkbuster and War Machine and Captain America, the Nomad. He isn't referred to as the Nomad or Captain America, it's just Steve Rogers. I'm just calling him Captain America for simplicity. So they all try to help defeat Corvus. And the Hulkbuster and Cole Obsidian end up fighting. Cole Obsidian ends up ripping off one of the Hulkbuster arms, but Banner uses that to his advantage when he attaches the detached arm to Cole Obsidian and makes it fire him off into the force field, which ends up crushing him against the force field and killing him. 3 down. And then when Corvus is fighting Cap, then Vision stabs him with his glaive. Okay, they were a bit too easy to beat. Yeah, the Black Order was kind of there. The only one with kind of an interesting personality was Ebony Maw, but otherwise they were kind of weak. So yeah, that happens. Okay, let's get back to Thor, since he's been kind of out of it for like a few minutes of this. So Thor and Rocket and Groot go to Nidavellir, where they meet the giant Peter Dinklage, the dwarf. Yeah, that's a big oxymoron there, I realize that, but you'll get what I mean when you see the movie. And Peter Dinklage reveals that Thanos made him forge the Infinity Gauntlet, and after he'd finished making it, he killed all the dwarves and cut off his hands to make sure they couldn't make any other weapons for anyone else. But as it so happens, there's one mold of a weapon left for an Asgardian king, and Thor convinces him to do it if he can get the furnace up and running, which he does. And then just the metal parts of it are there. And then now Groot finally comes into the plot and makes the handle for his axe, Stormbreaker. And then he uses it to have him teleport him to Earth. Because now apparently it has the powers of the Bifrost. Which is awesome when he comes in, thunder roaring, and he wipes out a bunch of the Outrider army. That was awesome. So, after all that happens, then Thanos actually does come to get the last stone. And all the Avengers end up coming up at him. But they're defeated really quickly. Banner tries to go Hulk one last time, but ultimately he doesn't go Hulk at all. It seems that the Hulk side of him is too afraid to Hulk out. And I was actually surprised at that. After the trailers, it looked like we were going to see the Hulk again, but we didn't see the Hulk at all besides the beginning. So the trailers lied to us. Again. Just like with the eye. So it ends up coming up to Wanda having to destroy the Mind Stone while fending off Thanos, which she does. She destroys the Mind Stone and Vision at the same time. She's crying on the ground, and Thanos walks up to her and tries to comfort her, but then uses the Time Stone that he just got to reverse time to when Vision was alive. Then he grabs him and then takes out the Mind Stone from his head. So Vision is dead like we all expected, and now Thanos has the full gauntlet. And then Thor sees this and then drives Stormbreaker through him, shocking Thanos, but then Thanos teleports back and heals himself while snapping his fingers. While that happens, we start to see half of everyone get erased. That includes Bucky, Falcon, Black Panther, surprisingly, Groot, Mantis, Drax, Star-Lord, Doctor Strange, and then Spider-Man. Man, when Spider-Man got erased, that brought tears to everyone in the theater. Oh man. That was probably one of the most emotional moments. Having half of our favorite heroes get erased. So, who's surviving by the end of this? Cap, Banner, Black Widow, Rhodey, Okoye, M'Baku, Rocket, Iron Man, Nebula, and oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Hawkeye and Ant-Man did not appear in the movie at all. Yeah, they lied to us. Again, as I've said already. They said that Hawkeye was on a personal journey throughout the movie, but that was all a big lie. Turns out that Hawkeye and Ant-Man took a deal, and they're basically under house arrest. We don't see them anywhere throughout the movie. And so it ends with Thanos doing what he said he would do earlier, which I did not mention. Crap. And he mentioned earlier that after he had wiped out half the universe, then he would just sit back, relax, and watch the sunset. Which is what he does by the end. And then the credits start to roll. And they rolled for a long time until we got that end credit scene. What happened? Nick Fury and Maria Hill are driving through New York, and they realize that random people are getting erased. And then and he sees Maria Hill getting erased, and right before he's done getting erased, he gets something out of his bag. He starts to send a message, and then he sends it right as he's getting erased himself. And then it turns out he's sending a message to Captain Marvel. And then after that, we get a thing that says Thanos will return. And that was it. We don't know the name of the fourth Avenger movie. So, yeah. That's how the movie ended. Overall, the action scenes in the movie were amazing. A lot of the characters were sidelined a bit. We don't know what happened to a lot of them, like Korg and Valkyrie. And ultimately, Rhodey and Falcon were kind of underused a bit. Wanda and Vision were given a lot of time despite, Sorry if it seems like I'm shaking. My hand is literally shaking. So I should probably start wrapping it up now. And yeah, that was the movie. And I will probably see it again a few more times. And I will probably still come out of the theater crying. And I will be looking forward to the next movie. And by next movie, I mean at the Avengers 4, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, that won't be quite as epic, I think, because of what's been left in our hearts after the movie. Yeah, but I'll still go see it. But our hearts won't return until Avengers come back. And they need to take down Thanos. Guys, we can't get through the rest of the cinematic universe without our Guardians, our Spider-Man, and our Black Panther. And that has been my spoiler review.